Hello and welcome to Political Arena on S24 television, and I'm your host, Oniye Shukra. As public conversations are increasingly moving online, so too have concerns about harassment, intimidation, and misuse of digital platforms. While many are arguing that stronger laws are needed to protect citizens from online abuse, others wonder tighter regulation could have implications for freedom of expression and democratic participation. So where should we draw the line? Joining me to discuss this is Nana Fatima Belo, a lawyer, a gender advocate, and a political strategist. Thank you for joining me, Nana.
Thank you for having me.
How do you do today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Okay, so let's go to the first question of the day. Where does Nigerian constitution stand on digital rights and freedom of expression?
I would say the Nigerian constitution, we already have freedom of freedom of expression. We already have it enshrined in our constitution. So you can see that even though we have that freedom of expression enshrined in the constitution, we don't necessarily have any form of, digital provision with regards how our freedom of expression is going to be navigated or how we can navigate our freedom of expression within the provisions of the constitution. So I guess there's the challenge with that. I've been seeing conversations being had about maybe it's time for us to actually implement digital provisions in our constitution to show the modern times that we live in with how technology is moving.
Okay, so let me move to online abuse in Nigeria. So when we talk about online abuse, what does that what does that contain? What is all of that about?
Well, online abuse, or, as in my space, in the line of work that I do, it's mostly called, technology facilitated gender-based violence, as we call it. You would see different forms of it, but then it's something that people, as we move today with the kind of society we live in, with the whole rise of, banger boys and bands on social media, crews that we do on social media, people usually like to blur the line on what, online abuse entails, because we have things like cyber stalking, we have things like cyberbullying, which is like the most common form of online abuse that there is. We have harassment, we have doxing, we have sextortion as well, we have impersonation, so many different forms that, our people don't necessarily see them as being forms of abuse, but in reality, they actually are. So there's a lot.
Okay, so as social media made online abuse more prominent, or because we now use social media every day, we now see it, or people now have access to do anything they like, abuse anybody, because social media, it's the digital world. You can talk to anybody, you can tag anybody, you can do anything. Yeah. So as social media made it more easy for you to see that, oh, this is an abuse, or it has made it more easy for people to commit the abuse?
I think it's a mixture of both, with the rise of social media, we are seeing a rise in online abuse. Obviously, the name is online abuse, so it's happening online. And with the rise of social media and the rise of technology, we are seeing more of that. We're seeing more of people being victims. And then we also have spaces on social media that actually allow people to be the perpetrators of perpetrators of online abuse like this. We have, like, let's say, for instance, I'm speaking from the female perspective, the rise of the manosphere and all the anti-feminism, and all the anti-feminism rhetorics that are going around. You can't even say you're fighting for women without someone coming to insult you, and all of those things. So I definitely would say that social media has made it easier for people to be bullies and to, perpetrate or abuse itself online. But then also at the same time, just because social media exists does not mean that abuse is not happening. Like, we're seeing abuse offline, but then also online because of, social media itself. And because we have so much access, our phones are in our hands. We literally, anything you want to do, your phone is right there with you. You can talk to somebody from wherever it is that they are. You can do this, you can do that just from your phone. So it's making the abuse itself easier. I would say that.
And it's making it easier for you to identify it.
Yes.
Okay, so are they laws related to cybercrime in Nigeria?
Well, yes, I think off the top of my head, I think we have two major laws that deal with this. We have the Cybercrimes Act, and then we also have the Nigerian Data Protection Act as well. So I think those are, should I say, the two major laws that we have, or the two major laws that address cyber crimes in Nigeria.
Okay, so are these laws adequate, or the real challenge here is the enforcement of the laws that are already in place?
To be honest, it's a mixture of both. The laws themselves are not adequate because there are certain provisions that there are certain types of technology facilitated violence that they don't necessarily address. And then we also have the problem of implementation as well. So you can see it's both things that are happening. The laws themselves seem to not be enough. And then at the same time, enforcement for the laws that are already there also seems to be a challenge.
Okay, so at what point does online abuse stop being a personal issue? Like it stopped being about one person or set of people, and now it is now an issue that the government should look into.
Well, just like with gender-based violence in general, it's something that happens to one person, but then we're seeing more of it happening, more of it happening. It's the same with online abuse. And then for me personally, where it becomes less of a personal issue and more of a general, a public, a public hazard, I like to call it, is the fact that it's not just affecting us, it's affecting children. Children are children online are incredibly vulnerable, especially like within the space that we live in. Because I was reading this statistic that said we have over 150 million Nigerians online, and over 70% of those 150 million people are young people. And if you look at the percentage of that 70%, a good number of them are children. Children are incredibly vulnerable when it comes to these online spaces. They don't have any restrictions that are protecting them. They have nothing in space that are protecting them. Like, for instance, this Hamangle article that came out about the Hausa Telegram network with the whole CSAM, it's things like this that remind us or that show you that this is something that is bigger than, this person is insulting this person online. It's something that needs government intervention.
Okay, so political conversations online have become increasingly hostile. And how much of that hostility is being driven by politicians, parties, and their supporters?
Politicians and parties and supporters, I would say that's mostly, I don't want to call it engineered because I don't want to sound like a propagandist, but in the political space we live in, as someone who also does political commentary 1 or 2 times, there is definitely a form of violence that comes with, the supporters of whoever it is that you're criticizing coming to not tell you that, oh no, actually this is what is going on, but coming to tell you things, in a very hostile way, insulting you, some going as far as doxing you, harassing you, sending you threats. So I don't know, I don't want to put out allegations, so I'm not going to say that, oh yes, they're engineering it.
We can put that question on a break. This has been Political Arena. If you're watching, and we will be going on a short break, we'll be back shortly.
each other by signing
we're back from that break, and this has been Political Arena. If you're watching, and my guest has been Nana Fatima Belo, a lawyer, a political strategist, and a gender-based advocate. Okay, so Nana, this brings me to the next question. Could stronger laws against cybercrime or online, if Nigeria has stronger laws today against cybercrime and all of that, do you think it will restrict the citizens from actually criticizing the government or those in power?
My problem with
this is a very sensitive, or should I say tricky, tricky question, because personally I don't see stronger laws as being something that would restrict our freedom of expression. I see it as we are actually having laws that would actually protect our freedom of expression. The whole problem comes with how those laws eventually get weaponized in a country that we live in, how those laws basically eventually get weaponized by those in power, by people that have some form of power wherever it is that they are, that we're seeing how they are weaponizing these laws to infringe on our freedom of expression. But for me personally, if we live in an ideal society, should I say, freedom of expression is something that could be protected by stronger laws, by stronger legislations.
Okay, so how can Nigeria protect freedom of expression while ensuring that digital platforms do not become a space for intimidation or harassment?
It all boils down to accountability. If we're holding the stronger powers accountable, and we are also holding ourselves accountable for what we say online and how we how we converse online. I think that is the most important and the biggest driving force of how we can build or how we can create like a sort of balance between freedom of expression and then having stronger laws and having safer environment for people to be online. It all boils down to accountability.
Okay, so in your own personal opinion, Do you think public officials have a right or a responsibility to set a tone for how we use social media?
Well, yes, definitely. I like to think of what's it called, our political leaders and our politicians as being influencers because they influence big crowd. They have
Yes.
a bunch of people, a lot of supporters. All they need to do is say one thing and it's Bible, basically. So I feel like, yes, definitely, they do have a responsibility to ensure that they are also influencing their supporters and people around them to ensure that they are creating safer space for people to express their political opinions online, whether it is for them or against them.
Okay, so we have in everything we do, they are always extremists.
Yeah.
They are political extremists, they're religious extremists, they're extremists everywhere.
Yeah.
So do you think these political figures are doing enough to condemn the acts that are being carried out by their fan extremists or their supporters extremists? Or do you think sometimes they are even aiding them to keep on targeting the other person or the other party?
I don't think they're doing enough. I think actually, like I said, I don't want to sound like a propagandist, but there are some forms that you would see. Yes, they are actually influencing. People to continue on with this extremist behavior because it takes out the accountability from them. It takes out from people holding them accountable, because if your supporters, you can't hold anybody accountable if his supporter is like, oh, if you say anything about him, I'm going to insult you, we're going to harass you, we're going to dox you, and all of these things. So I think because of the fact that they know that the accountability is going to be taken off their heads, they fuel it.
So what role should social media companies play in regulating harmful content, and should they be held legally accountable for failing to act? Before we get into that, recently I was scrolling through one of my social media pages here, and I saw a post about Meta in India, how one journalist was investigating Meta in India for promoting harmful content that involve children.
Yes.
And that is India. This is our country. Do you think they're actually doing enough to hold them to responsibility, to hold them to responsibility that they should protect those that need protection?
No, actually, I don't think we're doing enough to hold these social media companies accountable. Recently, I think Telegram was taken off of the App Store for Apple because of, the whole battle that they have with harmful, explicit content relating to children. We don't see much of that happening in Nigeria. We don't see much of, and it's because of the fact that we don't see much of these things happening in Nigeria. You'll be seeing, let's say, for instance, now on Telegram, there's a way that these people bypass all the restrictions that we have on Telegram. Like, for instance, now, Telegram only highlights the English. They only take part of, okay, you're saying this in English. They don't really see, okay, this person is saying it in Hausa. The AI that they have can easily be bypassed just by using Hausa language. And that's what people are doing nowadays. The other languages as well. So, we have all of these things that are restricting, should I say that are restricting them, or should I say maybe, for instance, they're not doing enough to show that they actually want to show protection, or they want to give protection for, these things that are happening in countries that are not, let's say, English speaking countries. But yeah, they definitely have to do a lot more when it comes to protecting citizens.
Nigeria has over 250 documented languages, and people come online every day to express themselves in their
different languages,
and then you can't do anything to protect them because apparently it's not English. Okay, so that takes me to the next question. How is online abuse affecting journalists, civil society groups, and ordinary Nigerians that want to participate in conversations that concerns them as Nigerians? How is it affecting them?
This is going to be personal to me because I'm someone that has like a very public presence on social media. And I would say that I have seen firsthand how much harassment goes into just you being on that public, public space and just speaking about these issues. I mean, I have had people go online to threaten me to, they're going to do this to me. They're going to send boys to my house. They're going to do a whole bunch of things to me just because I spoke about something. I spoke about something the government has not done. I spoke about a politician they like and I don't like, or probably I said something about him that they don't like. But then it's putting us at risk is what I would say. We have seen how many times we have seen how investigative journalists themselves have been abducted from their houses simply for trying to expose something that probably someone somewhere does not want to be exposed. So it's definitely putting a lot of people at risk. And then even for ordinary Nigerians, so many people have DM'd me a couple of times saying they want to speak up about these issues, but they cannot because they are scared. because they don't want people to drag them, because they don't want people to kidnap them, you know. We have, for instance, now the issue of that Yate that's currently going on. We're going on 7 years now without knowing what happened to him. And why? Simply because he was a public critic. And that was all, you know. So things like this are happening, and it's not a good time for the for journalists and for other people that are vocal to talk about public issues in the country. It's not a good time for them online.
We'll be going on a break and we will be back shortly. Welcome back to Political Arena with me, Oniye Shukra. Okay, so Nana, this brings me to our next question. With elections incoming, I mean, the elections are just in January and there has been a lot of paparazzis and preparing for it. So should online abuse be treated as a national emergency? Because now elections are coming and people would need to express themselves, will need to support their candidates and a lot of things going on. So should it be treated as a national emergency?
I would say yes, it should be treated as a national emergency, because we have seen the dangers of how extreme online abuse can actually go. And with the elections coming up, I would say yes, definitely. We definitely do need to treat it as a national emergency, because even as we are today, people are scared to come out to say that this is who they're coming out to vote for, you know.
It's becoming a threat.
Yeah, it's becoming a threat. It's basically kind of like a threat to your life. You can't even say, okay, yes, this is who I'm coming out to vote for, because you're scared of how people are going to react. You're scared that maybe someone somewhere is going to see your face, maybe in in real life, and pick you up because you said this is the person that you're going to vote for.
And it's becoming a threat to the democracy of the country entirely.
Yes.
Okay, so what lessons can Nigeria learn from other democracies that have introduced laws to tackle online abuse without undermining civil liberties?
What lessons? I think all of them, because as we stand today, especially, should I say, the most important lesson that we should learn from them is enforcement and implementation process, because that is something that is seriously lacking in this country. So I would definitely say that one thing or two things to learn from all these other countries that are implementing all of these policies to protect their democracy and civil societies as well, I would say, is learning from them their implementation process and their enforcement process.
Okay, so that brings me to our next questions. Beyond legislature, beyond laws alone, what practical measures like education, awareness, digital literacy, or institutional reforms are needed to create a healthier online environment for ordinary Nigerians?
Oh yeah, that's because at the end of the day, as much as we like to say that, oh, this is a national, national state emergency that needs to happen, you know, the government needs to do this, the government needs to do that. At the end of the day, we also have a responsibility as citizens to make sure that we are also creating safer spaces for people to exist online. And digital literacy is definitely one of them. Like we said, there are so many forms of technology facilitated violence that we're seeing that people don't even know is a form of violence. They don't even know it's a form of abuse, because we've normalized it in a way in our culture, in the way that we live. So I think digital literacy is definitely something. Schools have a responsibility to teach students as well how to exist online safely, whether it is to stop them from being the perpetrators of this kind of violence. We also have, you know, offices, workplaces, hospitals, so many other and even civil society organizations. For the organization that I work in, As Your Support Initiative, there's something that we're doing. We're calling the project, it's called the Safe Click Project, where we're basically giving digital literacy and training students across various campuses here in Abuja and also in Nasarawa State on how they can combat or how they can actually navigate being in online spaces, and how they can be safe in these online spaces, and how they can make sure that they are not perpetrators of violence in online spaces.
Okay, so they should learn that if I do this, it makes me a perpetrator.
Yes.
And if this has been done to me, it makes me a victim.
It makes me a victim,
People
yes.
should learn that. Okay, so ultimately, Nigeria have different laws. We have different cultures from other parts of the world and everything. What kind of digital society should we aim towards? What kind of digital society should we build as Nigerians?
It's very simple, actually. The kind of digital society that we should aim for is a digital society where everybody feels safe to be online. Nobody should feel scared to say anything, to say an opinion that they have online. We should always aim for creating safe spaces online.
And what role do you think the law should play in doing that? I mean, it takes me back to your profession. What role do you think the law should do?
The law basically takes the role of ensuring that we are protected in a way, because I feel like sometimes I like to tell people that the law is reactive in a way, it's not proactive. But then we also need to make sure that our laws are proactive in ensuring that we actually prevent the abuse from happening before it even happens. Let it not be like the law is coming after the abuse has already happened. We need to make sure that we have laws that, what's it called, that are addressing the abuse even before it happens.
Okay, so this brings me to the next question. Do influencers, bloggers, and digital media personalities have a greater responsibility to promote responsible online engagement, given their reach and influence?
Oh yes, definitely. Just like the same way I said, like politicians also have a role to play because of their influence. Influencers and content creators, they definitely do have a role to play, because you are basically someone that lives on that public space. You know how it is, you know what it feels like to be victimized in such a public space online. So you definitely do have a responsibility to ensure that whoever it is that is watching you is not watching you to learn a habit that they're going to eventually use to perpetrate abuse on another person.
Yes, and they should not be particular about it. Like, it's none of my business. I'm
Yes,
not a political
exactly,
person.
because it affects all of us. And at the end of the day, it will come back to bite you.
Okay, so looking ahead to the future elections, what safeguards should Nigeria put in place to prevent coordinated online harassment, disinformation, and voter manipulation?
It all goes back to our laws, to be honest. It all goes back to strengthening implementation and enforcement of the laws that we already have there in existence, you know. Just like I said, we do have strong laws, but then our laws are not strong enough and we don't have strong enough implementation. So I think implementation of our laws to ensure that nobody is being victimized based on, you know, their political stance, I think that's definitely one way to start.
Okay, so moving on to the 2027 election, I'd like for you to say 1 or 2 things to Nigerians ahead of the election.
Okay. Something I would tell Nigerians is, well, it's too late for you to tell you to go and get your PVC now, but I'm hoping that every single person that is of age has actually gotten their PVC. And before you go out to cast that ballot, please know who you're casting your ballot for. Research on the person, and it's not just about the president, it's about your governor, it's about your senator, it's about all of these other people that are going to shape the policies that will shape your life and your future. So definitely try to know the people that you're voting into office and vote people you know you can hold accountable.
Okay, so please help us pass another message to Nigerian leaders on things they should do or how you think they should act
regarding
the national issues and citizens and lots of problems we have currently.
Okay. I feel like they already know what they need to do. It's just a matter of, you know, let it be something that is of urgency to you to do it, because the people are actually going through a lot. We are going through so much. So please, let's do the needful.
Thank you for your time and perspective on this issue. It's been a really educative session with you.
Thank you for having me.
And if you have been watching, this has been Political Arena with me, Oniye Shukra, and on S24 television. Thank you for your time and thank you for watching. See you next time.